The term intensive commercial agriculture is now usually understood to refer specifically to the production of crops that give high yields and high market value per unit of land. These include fruits, vegetables, feeding plants from urban gardens, and dairy products, all of which are highly perishable, as well as some factor farm productions of livestock. Dairy farm and truck farm, or horticultural or market garden farms that produce a wide range of vegetables and fruits are found near most medium-sized and large cities. Because the product is perishable, transport costs increase because of the special handling that is needed, such as the use of refrigerated trucks and custom packaging. Note the distribution of truck and fruit farming, in which also suggests that the importance of climatic conditions in commercial fruit and vegetable growing. Feed grain and livestock farming involves the growing of grain on a producing farm to be fed to livestock, which constitute the farm's cost product. In Western Europe, 3/4 of cropland is devoted to production for animal consumption. In Denmark, 90% of all grains are fed to livestock for conservation, not only into meat but also in butter, cheese, and milk. Although livestock grain farmers work their land intensively, the value of their product per unit of land is usually less than that of the chalk farm. Consequently, in North America at least, feed grains and livestock farms are centered in the Middle West, farther from the main markets than are horticulture and dairy farm. Normally, the profits for marketing livestock, chiefly hogs and beef cattle in the United States, are greater per pound than those for selling corn or other feed, such as alfalfa and clover. As a result, farmers convert their corn into meat on the farm by feeding it to the livestock. Efficiently avoiding the cost of buying grain, they may also convert farm grain at local feed mills to the more balanced feed modern livestock rearing requires, where land is too expensive to be used to grow feed, especially near cities. Feed must be shipped to the farm. The grain livestock belts the world are close to the great coastal and industrial zone markets. The corn belts of the United States and the livestock regions of Western Europe are two examples. Next is the extensive commercial agriculture. Further from the market on less expensive land, there is less need to use the land extensively. Cheaper land and lower profits per unit of land leads to larger farm units. Extensive commercial agriculture is typified by large wet farms and livestock ranching. There are of course limits to the land use explanations attributed to von Thunen's model. Although it is true that farmland values decline westward with increasing distance from the northeastern market of the United States, they show the corresponding increase with increasing proximity to the massive West Coast market region until the specialty agricultural areas of the coastal states themselves are reached. The western states are characterized by extensive agriculture, but as consequence of environmental, not distance considerations, climatic conditions obviously affects the productivity and potential agricultural use of an area, as do soils and topography. In North America, of course, increasingly distance westward from eastern markets happens to be associated with increasing aridity and the beginning of mountainous terrain. In general, route, terrain, and dry climate rather than simple distance from market underlie the widespread occurrence of extensive agriculture. Large-scale wet farming requires sizable capital inputs for planting and harvesting machinery. A large tractor might cost $300,000 in a combined harvest, of 500,000 US dollar. However, the inputs per unit of land are low and wet farms are very large. Nearly half of the farms is Saskatchewan, for example, are more than 40 hectares or 1,000 acres. The average from the Kansas is larger than 300 hectares or 740 acres. And in North Dakota, more than 525 hectares or 1,300 acres. In North America, the spring wet or planted in spring harvested in autumn region includes the Dakotas, East Montana, and the southern part of the prairie provinces of Canada. The winter wet plant in fall harvest in midsummer belt centers on Kansas and includes adjacent sections of neighboring states. Argentina is the only South American country to have comparable large-scale wet farming. In the East Hemisphere, the system is successfully developed only east to Volga River in northern Kazakhstan and the southern part of western Siberia. Next is the special crops. Special crops are plants that are extensively cultivated under special circumstances, usually related to unique physical geography. Some places far from markets may become intensively developed agricultural areas. Two special cases are Mediterranean agriculture and plantation agriculture. Most of the arable land in the Mediterranean basin itself is planted to grains, and much of agricultural areas is used for grazing. Mediterranean agriculture as a specialized farming economy, however, is known for grapes, olives, oranges, figs, vegetables, and similar commodities. These crops need warm temperatures year-round and a great deal of sunshine in the summer. The Mediterranean agricultural lands indicated are among the most productive in the world. Farmers benefit from a predictable climate with few storms or severe weather problems. Also, the perception of pattern of Mediterranean climates, winter rains and dry summer, lends itself to the controlled use of water. Of course, much capital must be spent from the irrigation systems. This is another reason for the intensive use of land for high-value crops that are, for the most part, destined for export to industrialized countries or areas outside the Mediterranean climate zone, and even in the case of southern hemisphere locations, to markets north of equator. Climate is also considered the vital element in the production of what are commonly known as plantation crops. Plantation agriculture involves the introduction of a foreign investment, management, and marketing into an indigenous culture and economy, often employing. Climate is also considered the vital element in the production of what are commonly known as plantation crops. Plantation agriculture involves the introduction of foreign investment, management, and marketing into indigenous culture and economy, often employing a non-native labor force to produce and introduce markets. Next is the sustainable agriculture. To meet society's food and textile needs in the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. The adoption of larger-scale, highly industrialized commercial agriculture has increased overall agricultural productivity and benefit successful farmers and agribusinesses, but it has not come without significant cost. The negative effect of industrialized agriculture on the health of rural communities, ecosystems, and food systems have convinced many of the need for a more sustainable mode of agriculture. As the farms have grown larger and replaced human labor with machinery, the populations involved in farming has dramatically declined. This has led to the depopulation of rural areas and struggles to maintain the institutions and basic services necessary for a high quality of life. Industrialized agriculture relies upon heavy inputs of fertilizers, pesticides and herbicides, each of which has had a negative effect on rural populations, wildlife, surface waterways, and coastal systems that receive agricultural runoff. Industrialized agriculture relies on large quantities of fossil fuels of, fuel the machinery, manufacture petrochemical-based fertilizers, and distribute the food around the world. Heavy reliance on non-renewable fossil fuels to produce food is obviously unsustainable over the longer term. Finally, there are serious concerns about the quality of food supply and its relationship to human health and obesity epidemic, and diet-related diseases such as cancer and diabetes. Concerns range from the relative lack of fresh fruits and vegetables in the diets of rich countries, the safety of foods with pesticide and hormonal residues, to the growth of antibiotic resistance due to the overuse of antibiotics in livestock feeds.